Welcome back to Week 11 Pinnacle Insiders. Wang, what's the next game on the docket?
Next game is the game of the week for the Sanders Conference, Dale versus Tony.
Dale versus Tony. A matchup of the top records, not only in their division, but in the league. Two teams that are really looking to make a push for that first round bye. The first thing I think we need to talk about is the wide receiver health for both teams. Both teams really looking to find a solution at wide receiver because of all their injuries, Blue.
It looks like Macklin didn't practice today, so it looks like Macklin is questionable for this week. Also, limited practice on Crabtree, as well as Antonio Brown is out on a bye week. So it looks like Dale's going to have to find somebody else to put in that spot. Possibly Deshaun Jackson will come back from his issues. It looks like on Tony's team, Cribbs, Bo, Branch, there's not much there even when he doesn't have injuries.
I agree. I think that, with Tony's wide receivers, it's going to be a tough go for the rest of the year. He's going to have to look at maybe picking somebody up next week before the roster lock deadline to fill it in. There's some guys on the waiver wire that can be used, but he's got to make sure that he does it as we get down to week 11 and 12. You don't want to lose because your general manager isn't making the right moves. The next point I want to talk about with these teams is you can't spell elite without Eli. I think one of the more savvy moves made this season was Dale acquiring Eli Manning. It's not pretty. You can't watch him play the game. But at the end of every week, he's going to get you 15 to 20 points.
Well, he better be elite, because if he's not elite, then Dale's not going to do very well in the playoffs. Because we know that in fantasy, you're only as good as your quarterback, because he's going to put up the most points. And if he's not elite, looks like the last couple of weeks, he might have a little bit of a controversy there, because Matt Ryan has been playing well also.
I tend to agree. And on the other side, you got the same thing. That's a good segue. A quarterback controversy. Stafford sort of taking a step back from what he was doing in the beginning of the season. Carson Palmer's coming on strong with that high-flying Oakland offense. Who do you go with here?
Well, we're starting to see why Carson Palmer is worth the 2 draft picks that the Oakland Raiders gave up. And luckily for Tony, he didn't have to give up 2 draft picks to get him on his team. He's got a lot of young, fast receivers. And every week it's been somebody different. Dehe Bay, Jacoby Ford, Denarius Moore. I think he's got a lot of weapons there, as well as really good running backs. I think with what Stafford's been doing the last couple of weeks, I think I would, in his situation, I think I might have to start thinking about starting Palmer.
I tend to agree. Let's make some picks. It's a game of the week in the Sanders Conference. It's really going to come down possibly to be a game you look back, and this is why this team gets the bye. Who do you like this week?
I think because of what Dale can do with receivers. He brought in Earl Bennett. It looks like Akeem Nicks is coming back. Deshaun Jackson. That will make the difference over Cribbs, Hester, Bo, Branch. Bo has a new quarterback this week. He could be locked. Pelko could be locked in on him, or he might even completely ignore him, not being able to get him the ball. So because of the difference at wide receivers, I think I'm going to have to go with Dale in this game.
I tend to agree. I also would tell you to look out for Jermichael Finley. He hasn't been in the offense a lot lately. I don't think that's going to sit well with him. I think he gets a couple of red zone targets. Wang, what do you think?
I think Tony has a very strong running back core, and Dale has a very strong receiving core. I think Stafford's injury is a big question mark here. I don't know. If I were Tony, I don't know if I would start him. But I think Dale wins this one with Matt Ryan.
There you have it. What's next on the docket as we move over to the Spielman Conference?
Casper and Demetrius.
Okay, so this game is a game really that seems to me to be a battle for the first pick overall in the draft. It's 2 teams who maybe had higher expectations than what they're living up to, but, can really start on that rebuilding process. Casper's an expansion team, so we know that's tough. But one of the things we got to talk about with his team, it's Tebow time. I think a lot of people are down on Tebow. I was one of them. I'm starting to come around. He's going to get you 15 points every week.
Yeah, Tebow they're tailoring that offense around him. So he's going to be able to run. He's going to be able to do some things to score fantasy points. Is it going to work in the NFL? Are they going to catch on to him? Maybe, but in the fantasy world, it looks like it's working out.
And I'm going to tell you something. I think Casper needs it to work out because in the last 3 weeks, in the last 5 weeks, his 3 starting running backs have combined for 73 points total, all 3 of them. So he's not getting the production from the running back position other than Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow's like a running back at that quarterback position.
Who throws a couple of times a game, and that's all you need. On Demetrius' side of the ball, he made an interesting trade that was a little bit controversial. Acquiring Andre Johnson for Larry Fitzgerald. There was a couple other pieces, but that's the main thing. Do you think that he's missing Fitzgerald right now, seeing that Johnson hasn't played yet?
I feel like a better trade for him would have been going after some younger guys. If he's going to have to rebuild, he should rebuild with some younger guys and not rebuild with Andre Johnson. He's been injured the last couple of years. We don't really know what direction he's going to go in. Forrest had some younger pieces he could have got. If you're looking to move Larry Fitzgerald in that position, I think I would go with some younger guys.
And
So yeah, he may be missing Larry Fitzgerald, but he should be missing him with some promise. I don't know if that promise is there with Andre Johnson.
And not only that, but I think that what you also have to factor in is Andre Johnson's a free agent for this year. Now you can franchise tag him and you get him for 1 year, but then you got to worry about that all over again. So do you acquire somebody who you're going to lose at the end of the year when you're in the last place in your division?
I think if he moves Phil Rivers, I think he's going to free up enough cap space to keep him, and I think that's probably what his plan is. Also, with his high first-round pick next year, it's going to be like 2 rookies coming in because he's going to have Ryan Williams and he's going to have another pick to go with that. It's looking good. I just think that Andre Johnson might not have been the right move for him.
Fair enough. Let's make some picks. Wayne, what do you like in this game?
I like, come back to me.
Okay. Expert analysis over there. Always from our producer. We expect nothing less. Blue, that means it's on you.
Well, TGIT, Wink. Thank goodness it's Tebow. Even saying that, I'm going to have to go with Demetrius.
You know, I'm going to change that up a little bit, Blue. I like the direction you're heading. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to say TGFT. Thank goodness for Tebow. I think my life, as well as everybody else's, is better.
It's all a little
because
bit better.
Tebow's in this world.
It's all a little bit
And
better.
having said that, I am done betting against Tim Tebow. I think he rallies, and I think Casper rallies as well, and beats Demetrius. Wayne?
I think Cam Newton will have a big game along with MJD versus Cleveland. I'm going with Demetrius.
Okay. So we're all not in agreement. That's good. What's next on the docket?
Joe versus Joe.
Joe versus Joe. This is another interesting game. Joe Neller has come out of nowhere and has won 3 in a row. Joe Cito was in first place, but now he's won 2 in a row. These are 2 teams that are peaking at the exact right time. And the first thing that I want to talk about with this game is on Cito's side, no-name wide receivers with big production. What's your thoughts on that?
His receivers are really. It looked like he came into the season. He lost Bolden. He lost Colston. He brought in Jordy Nelson. This is a must. It's a must play every week. But if you look at the rest of the receivers, James Jones, Vincent Brown, Donald Nelson, Jabbar Gaffney, Nate Washington, Austin Collie, Mike Williams, all the same guy, all playable, all 10, 15 point a week kind of players.
You know, I tend to agree. All of those guys, except for Mike Williams, probably in a standard fantasy league, which sucks, weren't even drafted. And, maybe Jordy Nelson in the late round, but here's a team that's, he's made the most out of what he's got. He's getting production. On Neller's side, I think the biggest story is the return of Chris Johnson. He's finally starting to be that back that maybe makes him worth that $108 million that he's paying him this year.
Well, I think that Chris Johnson looks like he's going to come around a little bit now. Javon Ringer looked like he might have been getting some carries. It's not happening now. Chris Johnson's starting to play a little bit better. It looks like the Lions blocking for him a little bit better. I think that'll continue this week in Atlanta.
I tend to agree. We talked a little bit about Stafford versus Palmer, Tebow, instead of Cutler. We've got another almost quarterback controversy. Would you even think about starting Dalton instead of Flacco?
Dalton's been putting up the points. At Baltimore is just a tough play for a rookie. I think they're going to come after him, and I like the other quarterback in that game. If I'm Joe, I'm going to go with Flacco against Cincinnati. It's still, I know they're coming back a little bit. It's still Cincinnati. You're still going to get your fantasy points.
I tend to agree. I think Flacco has a little bit of a bounce back game. I think Dalton's really good for this team in the long haul, but right now I think it's still Flacco. For Neller on the other side of the ball, I think that late pickups have really made an impact on his team. Victor Cruz, Laurent Robinson. These are guys that weren't on his team 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago who are now getting points from him, maybe, hopefully on a consistent basis. So, let's make some picks. Blue, who do you like in this game?
Well, I do like Joe's running backs, and I do like Joe's wide receivers, but I think Neller has some bigger running backs with Lloyd, Cruz, and Burris. I think they're going to put up more points than Joe's Cito's running backs, and I think that's going to make the difference. I'm riding with Neller.
You know, as much as I hate to do this because I think we're creating somewhat of a love fest here, I tend to agree with you again. I think on paper, Turner and Rice are better, but their matchups are really tough this week. Tennessee and Cincinnati are really good against the run.
And you know what? Joe doesn't need the win as bad as Neller does. Joe's basically locked up that division. You got Demetrius that's mathematically eliminated, and you got Casper that he's trending downward right now.
I tend to agree. Wayne, who do you like?
Sweep them. I like Chris Johnson, Brandon Lloyd, Burris, and Ron Robinson. You know, these players have great matchups this week, and I think Neller is going to pull it up.
There you go. What's next on the docket?
It's a game of the week for the Spielman Conference. Josh versus Chris.
This is an interesting matchup, and I'm going to tell you why. Josh has lost 3 games in a row. Unfortunately for Chris, he's lost 2 in a row to not be able to capitalize on those losses. Both teams kind of reeling. Josh seems to have lost a little bit of a grip on his team, and not, he's got indecisions of who to start. Some players aren't performing like they were. But the first thing we're going to talk about in this game has to be Aaron Rodgers. How good is he playing right now?
We're talking about an all-time season for a quarterback, and maybe an all-time season for an all-time quarterback. I think it's going to continue in Tampa Bay. They don't run the ball. They don't even try to run the ball. They throw, and they throw, and they throw, and that's good for fantasy quarterbacks.
Once again, there's no denying he is having a fantasy season, a pinnacle season, like you've never seen before. He's on pace to break a whole bunch of records. Both teams right now come in with studs at different positions. Mitchell's got him at the running backs. Josh has him at the wide receiver. This week he got Mike Wallace on a bye, so it's really 3 versus 3. 3 wide receivers against Mitchell's 3 running backs. Who do you like in that matchup?
In that matchup, I'm always going to go with the running backs because they get more consistent play. They're going to get the carries. The matchups are good for them. I'm going to go with the running backs. Wide receivers, you may hit. You may not. Quarterbacks can go to other players. The game can turn. They can start running a lot. But the running backs are always going to get their touches.
All right, let's make some picks. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to have to go with Josh on this one. I think Alex Smith's going to have a nice game in Arizona, but it's not going to be enough. I think Chris's running backs will be good, but his wide receivers are just too weak, and Josh's running backs are at least serviceable.
Finally, we get to disagree. I really like Chris going into this one. I think that his running backs are going to be able to sustain those matchups, and he's going to have a good week. Wayne?
I think Chris is going to win with this one, even without his newly acquired stud Drew Brees. He's probably going to start Alex Smith. He's also without Miles Austin, but I think Fred Jackson will come out with will have a bounce back game, and McCoy will come out and have a good game. So I think Chris wins this one.
There you go, folks. I'm Wink Rothberg for my partner Blue Tippington and our producer Wayne Goldstein. That's the DL on the PL for Week 11.